there guys and gals, welcome back to Back Pocket Game Reviews. This is my first time recording on my new phone. I had to get a new phone. I have a Samsung Galaxy S10 now. That's really as far as we're going to go into that. If you caught the stream, you found out I was having some weird issues with my LG, had to upgrade. So here we are, new phone. For today's video, I have for you my 30 favorite games from this decade. And keep in mind there's going to be a separation by platform, and then the rest are multi-platform games and in no particular order. 30 was as low as I could get it. I tried to cut it down. You're probably going to find there to be some fat on this, but again, these are my favorite games. These were games that I just felt couldn't really be shaved off of this list. And it's been 10 years, so 30 really isn't actually all that many by comparison. Could have been a way longer list. I could have done 50. Could have done 50 easy. And if it was multiple games in the same franchise, they are sharing a line. We're not going to really go over too much about the game. I'm going to say a few words about it, and we're going to move right along, because this is probably going to be a longer video than what I want it to be. First up on the list is Mario Odyssey. Nintendo Switch game, fantastic 3D Mario game, arguably in there with some of the greats, very innovative, and, well, it's probably been my favorite Mario game, at least of this decade. Weird how that works, right? Zelda Breath of the Wild. So Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, if you haven't played it, it is if Zelda literally had a love child with Skyrim and then out-Skyrim'd Skyrim. It's the easiest way I can say that for you. Actually, I've got a Skyrim mug that I'm drinking chamomile tea with honey out of. I'm becoming a senior citizen. Fire Emblem Three Houses. For those of you who follow me on Nintendo Switch, you literally watched me binge play this game for like 2 weeks straight. Like, I did nothing other than play Fire Emblem, and it's that good of a game. Luigi's Mansion 2. That's right, everything of Nintendo's has somehow made this list off of the Switch. Luigi's Mansion 2 was a sequel to arguably my favorite Nintendo game of all time, which is the original Luigi's Mansion. Dark Moon was alright, Luigi's Mansion 2 was like a full actual sequel, and it was superb. It was really hard not to give that like my game of the year, but Fire Emblem was a little bit better. And it's really weird that all of my favorite Nintendo games all came off of the Switch. I did rule out any handheld games from that, just as an FYI. It was really hard to do, but I felt they shouldn't have been on this list. For Xbox, we got Halo Reach. It's my favorite Halo game. This is my favorite Halo game that the Master Chief isn't in. Halo 3 I would have put up there, but it's been more than 10 years since Halo 3 released. And while Halo Reach probably has one of the most interesting endings, especially for a Halo game. If you've never played it, I'm not going to spoil that. Just play through the game. The ending's going to surprise probably a little bit at least. Cuphead, arguably the most infuriating game, but one of the most beautiful art styles I've ever seen in a game, and it never makes you feel like you were cheated. It just makes you feel like you're not good enough. So that's, if you like that in a game, if you like to feel like trash because of a game, get Cuphead. I have it on the Xbox and on the Switch, so now you know I like feeling like trash. For PlayStation, we got God of War. That's the new one on the PS4. I know, if you haven't played that, you are really missing out and doing yourself a disservice. They broke away from a lot of the tropes of previous God of War games, made Kratos a lot more deeper of a character. Not to say he didn't already have some depth to him, but they did a fantastic job and took it out of Greek mythology and put it straight into Norse mythology. Marvel Spider-Man. Marvel Spider-Man's awesome. Insomniac Studios does a great job on most things they touch, even Sunset Overdrive. You should play both those games. Sunset Overdrive did not make this list, though. Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain's one of my favorite titles. I get it, some of these titles might not be your favorite titles, but that is why this is my top 30 list. And you might find a game on this list that you've never played that you should try sometime. Heavy Rain is kind of like Detroit Become Human, but it was really the first game that kind of took that genre off. So before Telltale Games was Telltale Games, Heavy Rain and the studio that develops Heavy Rain and Detroit Become Human were out telltaling Telltale Games. That was a tongue twister to a certain extent. Overwatch. Overwatch is at the very back. And as I said, they're not in any particular order, but Overwatch was a great game. It did a lot of innovative work for keeping a shooter alive well past the traditional 1 year mark, because that's kind of been the trend with shooters. They're good for a year and then the new one comes out, sort of like Call of Duty. But Overwatch showed what it looks like to actually keep that platform an actual game as a service and keep it rolling. And they did a very good job at it. Saints Row the Third and Saints Row, the fourth one. I can't remember what the hell the title of that one was. But Saints Row in the last 10 years kind of broke away from where it was with Saints Row 1 and 2. And with Saints Row 1 and 2, it was essentially a Grand Theft Auto clone. And it eventually stopped taking itself seriously, realizing it could not compete with Grand Theft Auto on that level, and just went full all out. If you've never played these games, I can't remember if it's 3 or 4, but in one of them you ride a velociraptor. Yeah, it's like it sings you the song of its people while you're riding it. Just try it. South Park: The Stick of Truth and South Park: The Fractured But Whole. Now, they were very well done games. However, they are on the list because I'm a huge South Park fan, and it is literally like playing your own episode of South Park and getting to interact in a world that I've been experiencing since I was a kid. Yeah, I've been watching South Park since I was a kid. Sup? 6th grade. South Park. Yeah, that's right. I love South Park, if you weren't aware. Batman Arkham City and Batman Arkham Knight. Arkham City was fantastic. It was arguably like the first, so I shouldn't say City was, but technically Batman Arkham, I can't remember what the first one in the series was called now either, but it kind of, it brought back being able to be a licensed game and be quality at the same time. See, when I was a kid, that was common. You'd had the Lion King and the Aladdin games. Those just re-released. The Sega Genesis ones, if you haven't played them, you should. They're infuriating, kind of like Cuphead. So my whole childhood pretty much taught me in games that I'll never be good enough. And it's nice to see games start to do that again to my kids. It's just fabulous. But Arkham City and Arkham Knight are great. They're fantastic. I believe Arkham Knight was just free last week or last month on PS Plus, if I'm not mistaken. But they're definitely worth a playthrough. You can even get the original game. The original game's a little more linear, not as open world. I mean, to a degree, it is open world, just a little more segregated off than what it is in City and Night. Next up on the list, we've got Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 3. I would still tell you Borderlands 2 is better than 3, but both games are superb and fantastic and wonderfully hilarious and fun to play through, and each playthrough still winds up different. You find more stuff every time, and it's just fun to hunt loot. Who doesn't like to get loot, right? That's kind of what we do as gamers. We're hunting for treasure to a degree. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. I really wish this game would get a sequel. I played it shortly after it released. I think it was probably 2 or 3 months after it came out, and I was on the fence about it. Then one of my buddies played it, and he's like, "It's like Fable but better," and it is to a huge degree. The way it plays is very much so similar to Fable, but with a much more adultish, but still very intriguing and whimsical art style. Fable is kind of known for having a more cartoony art style, but I do love the Fable games as well, so there's that. Diablo 3. If Diablo 2 would have also came out within the last decade, that would have made this list as well. We waited a very long time to get a sequel to a Diablo game, like a very long time, and Diablo 3 lived up to almost every promise it could have made, except for some debacles with the auction house, which they eventually fixed and patched out. But again, this is another one of those games where you can see how they preserved it over time and kept it going. Granted, it is Blizzard, and that is kind of what they're known for. They even did it with Overwatch, probably why they were able to do that so successfully. When you look at games like WoW, which have been going since, 2003 for WoW? Jesus Christ, that game is 16 years old, it's almost 17. That's ridiculous. No one has a game on the market that has been going for that long. Next up on the list is Portal 2. So I'm a huge fan of the Portal franchise. I will never get a Portal 3. It's alright. This is the one time that Valve is truly leaving a bad taste in my mouth. I like Half-Life. I'm okay if I don't get a Half-Life 3. I love Left 4 Dead 2. I know I'm not going to get a Left 4 Dead 3. I'd still rather see a Portal 3. Not going to lie. But it's fantastic. You get demeaned by a robot the whole time you're playing through it, solving physics-based puzzles. It is backwards compatible on the Xbox, by the way. If the game is on this list, you can either backwards compatible play it on the Xbox, or it's still on a current-gen console. Rainbow Six Siege. Okay, I don't really need to go in depth. You've all seen me play Rainbow Six Siege numerous times. It's like the game I stream the most because it's the game that I play the most. And if I get bored of a game, it's usually what I wind up going back to. Fallout 4. Yeah, I know. There's so many of you booing right now. Oh, my lord. So I really liked Fallout 4. It innovated a lot in terms of the actual gameplay in the Fallout series. I get it. A lot of you guys found the story to be a little bit weaker. I did play as the bad people, the ones that were killing all the cyborgs, because I don't trust cyborgs. They're not cyborgs. I really don't remember what the names of them are. It's been a while since I've crawled through Fallout 4. Destiny 1 and 2, I would say Destiny 1 had a bigger impact in the last decade than what 2 did, and I would even tell you that I probably liked 1 right off the bat more than I did 2. 1 did a lot to keep the game very fresh and keep you coming back, especially with its updates and its constant things going on and changes they were making to the game. 2 somehow managed to lose that luster, which is crazy, and a lot of people blame Activision for it. Bungie is no longer owned by Activision, so Destiny 3 will tell us if it was actually Activision or if it was just Bungie screwing up royally. I would like to think it was Activision. Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider. That's right, all 3 of the Tomb Raider reboots came out over the last decade. Isn't that just cool? That's so fancy to know. The reboot series of Tomb Raider is honestly way better than the original. However, I will say this, you can never disrespect the original because it did a lot for games as a whole. It was a very innovative and unique game for its time, and it changed a lot of things about games that we currently see. And I mean, a lot of these games that you hear and talk about, like when you hear about Mario 64 was one of the biggest innovators of gaming at its time. Tomb Raider was very close in a very similar aspect. But the reboot series is even better. Just play them. If you like Uncharted, it's Uncharted, but you can play it on both platforms and PC. And from what I hear, the hair physics on Lara Croft are absolutely ridiculous on PC. Not that, that's like really important, but at least gives you like something really interesting and intriguing to look at the whole time, seeing as it's a third-person game. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The reason why I saw Odyssey made this list for me and is truly because Assassin's Creed broke away from its tried and true method of being very repetitive. Assassin's Creed was a great game when it first came out. I loved the first one. I've played literally every game in the series. The only one I've disliked, like absolutely hated, was 3. I hated 3. Connor was very whiny. It's very hard to go from Ezio to Connor. It was just, Connor just couldn't hold me. I love that time period, which kind of really, really hurt me to have to say that I didn't like the game because of Connor. However, with all of that being said, Assassin's Creed Odyssey is literally kind of like playing The Witcher, but in a Greek setting, which is semi-historically accurate, but with mythological beasts being tossed in very sporadically, and a really weird connection to the real world. Just play it. You'll love it. If you played The Witcher and you like The Witcher, just play Assassin's Creed 3. That is the most comparable game to it. Far Cry 5. So I'm a huge Far Cry fan, as you all know, and I left Far Cry 4 off the list, not because I disliked Far Cry 4. It's just Far Cry 4 was literally Far Cry 3, but with a different protagonist and a different environment. Far Cry 4 was actually one of the first games I ever streamed. Yep. Streamed it on Twitch. A lot of running from honey badgers. That was pretty terrifying, actually. The honey badgers are little assholes in that game. But Far Cry 5 did a lot to change up and add new to the genre, and it made it hit very close to home because it takes place in America. and it's a religious cult that takes over a certain town, which makes it even crazier. I think it was in Montana, if I'm not mistaken. Story's absolutely crazy. It's absolutely gripping. You should play it. You'll love it. It's a fantastic game. DLC's not worth it, though. Don't buy the season pass. I did. So take my advice on that. Dishonored 1 and 2. I loved the first Dishonored. Dishonored 2 is also very good. Corvo easily became one of the most intriguing characters in video games to me. And it was a great game that Bethesda published. It was not fully made by them. It was made by Arcane Studios. But if you haven't played the Dishonored games, they're awesome. It is a stealth game, and yes, I know I suck at stealth. You can go in loud and proud if you so choose, and you can actually complete the games without killing a single person. It is immensely hard, but the less people you kill, the better your outcome becomes. You can hide bodies, too, by having them eaten by swarms of rats. I know, that just got really dark, didn't it? Metro 2033, Metro Last Light, and Metro Exodus. All three games are fantastic. The first one's more horror, the second one's more action, and the third one is more horror again. Well, it kind of blends with the third one. You kind of get like a nice blend. It all depends on the area you're in. And I will tell you, I am not good with ammo management. I do spray and pray a lot of the time. So that game can be very hard for me. But all three of the Metro games are awesome. They're based off of a book series. It is a Russian book series where you are escaping a nuclear holocaustic environment by living in the Russian metro system. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy story. You should actually play the games and read the book. Read the book as well. It's fantastic. Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. I know. Mass Effect 3 had a disappointing ending. I actually didn't mind the ending, and I'm not going to let the last 5 minutes sour an amazing adventure as a whole. Mass Effect 2 is arguably one of the greatest RPGs I've ever played in my entire life, also making character development missions, like the kinds where you just go do these little tasks to help make your friends like you more. It actually made those enjoyable. Like, I wanted to do them because I wanted to know more about the characters that they had written. And literally, you may have different people that survive your game or different people that I go through to the end with that you don't. You can't survive with everyone. It's not possible. You can in 2, but not in 3. Fantastic series, by the way. Even the first one's really good. But the first one's over 10 years old. So, couldn't go on the list. Bioshock Infinite. The original Bioshock actually came out in 2009, so it could not be put on this list. Bioshock 2 is meh, and Bioshock Infinite is like one of those things, and it's just like the first one. It's like a really, really good old book that's willing to touch on taboo topics and do it so extremely well, but make this amazing story. And I would stream it for you, but I like to stream directly from my console without a game capture card. Maybe I will stream it for you at some point off of my wife's streaming setup, because we do have the capture card set up over there, and OBS is set up for me to be able to use, hence the trivia stream I did last time, which we need to finish, by the way. But Bioshock Infinite's fantastic. And no, you don't have to play Bioshock the original to understand Bioshock Infinite, but there's a part you're going to like more in the DLC if you play it, and the ending will make more sense if you play it. But you don't need to, because literally it's like the last 2 minutes tie into it. GTA 5, another game that's had a really long run, showing you again games as a service were something they were able to pull off this generation. GTA 5 has been really popular for a really long time, which is actually frightening. I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of these games like Overwatch and Rainbow Six have managed to maintain popularity over a decent chunk of time, but Grand Theft Auto 5 still remains in like the top 10 streamed games on a regular basis. So that's pretty impressive, especially seeing as that game is literally old as dirt at this point. It came out before the Xbox One and the PS5 released, or the PS4 released, so it literally has been going for an entire console generation. Cool, right? Witcher 2 and Witcher 3. I prefer The Witcher 3 a little more than The Witcher 2. Both games are very solid and fantastic games. The Witcher 3 is probably one of the greatest RPGs of its time. Fantastic story. The books are good too. Don't expect the books to be identical to the games. It's just sort of like the TV show. they're adaptations of the original work, which was the books. So the games even take the books at a different pacing. I prefer the games. The books are still really good, but the games are still my favorite version of the Witcher media, and CD Projekt Red's kind of notorious for just making awesome games at this point. Granted, The Witcher is really all I know them for, so it makes me very excited to see what they're going to put out with Cyberpunk 2077. And last but not least on this list, if you didn't see this coming at this point, it's Skyrim. I bought 7 copies of this game. If you really didn't think, is it 7? Xbox 360, Xbox One, PS4, PSVR, Switch, PC. I feel like I'm missing one. Maybe I'm not. 6. We got 6. I bought 6 copies of this game. I bought 3 copies of The Witcher 3. PS4, because I got PS4 Pro after I had played it on Xbox One, and I wanted to see that in like the 4K touch-up. Same with Skyrim. That was kind of why I rebought Skyrim. But I've replayed Skyrim and beat it each time. I wish I could tell you it was like different playthroughs, like I changed stuff too, but I literally never side with the Stormcloaks. Like I can't bring myself to do it. Something about them is just like, I think they're racist. It could be wrong, but just like something about them, it's like, get out of our homeland. Just like, oh, I'm just passing through, buddy. I know I'm playing as an Imperial and it makes you uncomfortable, but you cool your tits. So, those are my 30 favorite games out of this console generation. And don't get me wrong, there are other games that I easily could have stuck in there. As I said, I could have made this a 50 game long list without really trying, because there were games that I left off. And there were games that I really love. Like, I don't play as much, but I respect them for what they did. Like Minecraft would have been a great example of that. I'm not a huge Minecraft fan, but Minecraft literally changed. Like, that was the game for the longest time. Fortnite would have never made my list. Ever. For any reason. That game should have died. And then it came out with a Battle Royale and miraculously survived. And I know a lot of you would have probably put Persona 5 on there. I know there's so many other games that we could have went over. There's, as I even said, more I could have touched on. So, I am curious, though, what games, if you had to give me 5, in the comment section down below, what are your 5 favorite games over the last decade? And I know it might be hard. If you really want to go longer than that down there, you can. I will obviously read over them. Maybe you'll even say, yeah, that would have, you might see me say, yeah, that might have made my list too. There's so many games. And a decade's a really long time to have to remember everything and just how that impact was. Don't get me wrong, there's some that were super near and dear to me, like Bioshock Infinite couldn't have been left off that list, Mass Effect 2 couldn't have been left off that list, Skyrim, Witcher 3. I mean, there's so many that I just could not have taken off even if I wanted to. Even Saints Row. Like, Saints Row might have felt like filler, like, to you guys, but I love the Saints Row series. And I didn't really like it until 3, when it kind of was just like, we're going to go full parody, full over the top. Whereas Grand Theft Auto is like light parody. So they were able to kind of differentiate themselves in that way. And a lot of that stuff's really cool to witness and how that evolves and changes over time. So, comments down below and let me know what your favorite games were of the decade. Absolute top ones. Please don't make it over 20. I really don't want to have to read through over 20 of them. But if you want to follow me anywhere else, links are always in the description box down below, including my Patreon, Xbox Live, PSN. All of that stuff is down there. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a thumbs up. Those thumbs up help us grow the community, help my content get seen by more people, and hopefully get me liked again in the YouTube algorithm, because I can tell you right now, the YouTube algorithm hates me at this point because I am so sporadic at uploading, which, if you saw the stream, kind of explained why. I'm sorry. It's not all my fault. It is winter, so I could like hibernate if I really wanted to, but that's not why it all happened. Subscribe, click the bell button. You know how that stuff all works. And at this point, you should, if you don't know, you're not watching YouTube ever, so probably not gonna subscribe to me either way. Guys, I'll see y'all soon. I'll have plenty more content coming for you, so stick around.